President Biden has credited the American Rescue Plan for helping to get the economy back open, but we're still experiencing decades-high inflation, and a growing number of economists say it's unlikely the Fed can squash inflation without causing a recession. Joining me now, White House Council of Economic Advisors member Jared Bernstein. Jared, thanks so much for coming on the show. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
So obviously, we've long retired the word transitory when it comes to inflation, but what's the administration's forecast? When does inflation start to fall? And can you imagine returning to the very low levels of the previous decade, back when globalization was seen as a good thing?
Well, if you look at pretty much every forecast out there, they tell you something very important in this regard, in that they all expect inflation to be growing considerably more slowly at the end of the year. Not, to address your question, at the rate it was growing pre-pandemic, sort of in that 1% to 2% range, but down around 4.5%, which is about half of where it is now. That's a pretty strong deceleration, but it's not down to where I think President Biden would like to see it, because he recognizes what a challenge even a slower rate of price pressures cause for household budgets. So we're going to continue to keep pressing our agenda to ease price pressures at the household level.
So, Jared, it's no secret that over the decades, the Federal Reserve does not have a great batting average in terms of creating the so-called soft landing. This time around, it may be even harder because it appears they could be tightening into a weakening economy. But even that's not clear. If you look at the Philly Fed, that was an ugly number. But when you look at, say, jobless claims, that suggests the economy is booming. So how do you triangulate all that, and what are the odds we can avoid a recession?
Yeah, that's an important question. And I think the best way to do that is to probably not look too closely at some of these probability models, because they're based on economies that are quite different from the one we're in right now. We're still dealing with a pandemic that we haven't seen in 100 years. We're, of course, have Putin's unprovoked and unjust war affecting commodity and energy prices. So I think what you really need to do is look at the economy's headwinds and the economy's tailwinds. We've talked about some of the headwinds so far in terms of price pressures, commodities, energy, but think about the tailwinds. We have the strongest labor market on record, and most people depend on the labor market, not the stock portfolio, but the labor market for their well-being. Household balance sheets, thanks to many of the policies of the rescue plan and the president's actions when he took office low these many months ago, have left household balance sheets in particularly strong shape. I was just looking at net worth as a share of income, or debt service as a share of income, the first being quite high, the second being quite low. So I think it's widely agreed upon that these tailwinds will help as we enter a period where the Fed is clearly pivoting to a more restrictive set of policies.
The big thing everyone talks about when it comes to inflation, of course, is gasoline. The president, in his recent economic report of the president, said that he would take whatever steps he can to push those prices down. He's already tapped the strategic oil reserve. What else can he do?
Well, first of all, I think sometimes people fail to appreciate the magnitude of the release from the strategic reserve. So the president talked about 1 million barrels a day for 6 months, so 180 million barrels. But then he went out and got some of our allies who also have strategic reserves to chip in another 60 million, so 240 million barrels. And as we've seen, that's already impacted oil prices and prices at the pump. He also went out to the Midwest and talked about E15. That's increasing the supply of gasoline through the ethanol additives there. And we're continuing to press all of the producers to meet their production quotas. At the same time, we're starting to see some response. It's been a bit late coming, but we're starting to see some response to the high prices of energy. So you have a market function, kind of a market-generated motivation, getting more rigs out there, taking advantage of these prices, and that's also should help take some of the edge off the supply constraint. But look, the president's been very straight about the challenges posed by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and they are very much in this mix.
Okay, thanks for that. Just one more trade-off question, and that is this: the Buy American provisions of the infrastructure bill. That sounds great on one level, but of course, that could be inflationary too. Is that going to push prices up?
I don't think so. We've looked quite carefully at this, and I can't find any empirical evidence to suggest that that would be the case. In no small part because, remember, this is a $24 trillion economy, and we are talking about a very fulsome set of projects. But this is one corner of one set of some of those projects. So we think that Buy American is the right policy, both in terms of not just creating jobs here, but onshoring, creating production here, some critical components of our supply chain that clearly have not performed in as agile and as resilient sense as we like. So the president's agenda to help reshore some of those chains and build it here, I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of long-term stability.
The last couple of years have been a good reminder that building onshore is a pretty good idea. Jared Bernstein, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.